In the United States of America, citizens are tasked with electing an individual to fill our highest office, the presidency. However, sometimes our presidents don't always shape up to be the leaders we had hoped. So what happens when our president does something wrong? Well, the process of impeachment. A process which has only taken place twice in our history, hence the star next to Nixon. But we'll get back to that later. Now, let's begin with getting some terminology straight. Impeachment isn't removal from office. Rather, it's the process that may eventually lead to removal from office. This process begins very simply when the President of the United States is alleged to have committed treason, bribery, or other high crimes or misdemeanors. The President doesn't actually need to be convicted of anything. In fact, proceedings begin when any member of the U.S. House introduces an impeachment resolution, or, in other words, an official complaint. This complaint is given to the U.S. House Judiciary Committee, which then analyzes the complaint to see if the accusations may hold legitimacy. The complaint may contain police reports, findings of a special counsel investigation, or any other evidence which could be later used to convict the president. If a majority of the Judiciary Committee thinks that the complaint has no merit, they toss it and the process is over. However, if 51% of the committee agrees, then the committee writes more and turns the complaint into the Articles of Impeachment. These articles are then sent to the U.S. House. Once in the U.S. House, all members debate and then vote on the Articles of Impeachment. Like the Judiciary Committee, 51% must vote in favor of the articles, or the process is over. If, however, 51% do agree, then the Articles of Impeachment are ratified and sent to the Senate. Once the Articles of Impeachment are sent to the Senate, the President is officially impeached, and the real process begins. First, the Senate turns the Articles of Impeachment into the Bill of Indictment and proceeds to notify the President, which, even on a good day, is bound to be a pretty unpleasant job. The impeachment trial then begins. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides over the trial with a special committee of representatives forming the prosecution. The President and his lawyers, of course, make up the defense. Finally, the jury consists of all 100 U.S. Senators. When the trial is over, the Senate deliberates behind closed doors and re-enters the chamber to vote. If more than 1/3 of the senators think that the President is not guilty of these crimes, then he or she remains in office. However, if 2/3 find the President to be guilty, then they are immediately removed from office and the Vice President is instated as President. To learn more about this, you can watch an earlier video on the line of succession. Once removed from office, the former President may now be subjected to criminal trials for their actions while in office, which could potentially land him or her in jail. In reality, this has never happened. No president has ever been removed from office. However, there have been 3 presidents that were either impeached or came very close to being impeached: Andrew Johnson, Richard Nixon, and William Clinton. Let's start with Andrew Johnson. Johnson did not like Reconstruction. His Secretary of War, however, did, and so did Congress. Johnson planned to fire his Secretary of War because of this, but to make a long story short, Congress passed a law which said do not fire Secretary Stanton. So Johnson fired Secretary Stanton. Although he was impeached for this, Johnson was saved from removal by a margin of 1 vote. Richard Nixon, perhaps the most famous impeachment case, was never actually impeached. To make another long story short, Nixon sent a team of people to break into the Democratic headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. And of course they were caught and traced back to Nixon. Now, there was very little evidence to connect them directly to Nixon, so it's a good thing that there wasn't a massive pile of evidence so as it turns out, there were dozens of tapes with audio linking him to the Watergate crime, as well as dozens of tapes which damaged his personality and presidency. As the articles of impeachment were being drafted, Nixon resigned rather than stand trial. Lastly, we have Bill Clinton. Multiple women had revealed that they had participated in extramarital affairs with President Clinton, who denied it. Then, under oath, he denied it again. Since this was likely a lie and it was said under oath, Clinton was accused of perjury. After a spirited congressional debate about what's considered an extramarital affair, Clinton was impeached, but was ultimately acquitted during the Senate's vote. Who knows what the future may bring for the history of U.S. impeachments? It's not unlikely that a future president will someday be impeached. It's just a question of who, why, and when.